order at 9:11. We have a quorum. The first thing I wanted to talk about were our minutes from December the 10th. And they're pretty simple minutes. I looked through them.
I thought they looked okay. I looked at them too.
And the only thing I saw that I would have changed, Laura and John, is when it talks about the cover letter to the selectmen, we didn't review it, but we also approved it. So I added the approved.
Okay.
I'm going to trust that you guys are both on it, man.
Okay. So may I have, Tom was there, but cannot be, as I excused him, he's off to Boston on some medical issues. So a motion to approve the minutes
Yes. So moved.
As amended,
as amended.
I'll make a motion. I'll make that motion.
Okay,
Laura's
I'll
already seconded it. May I have a vote? We're supposed to actually do this by roll call. So Laura says,
Yes, aye.
John,
Yes.
and John Reel says yes. So it's approved 3-0. That was easy. Looking at the next thing on the agenda is to look at the harbor management plan itself. I take it we have all reviewed the red portion, and that's been Laura did some further modifications, and that's now been incorporated into the document. There was one thing I will plan to add, then we'll talk about Laura's suggestions. I had some feedback from John Portnoy and Barbara Brennesel, both of whom are on the Conservation Commission. And John particularly was concerned about this issue of revetments because he's been on the Conservation Commission for many years.
Oh, looks like John's getting on.
I see your name now, John. Can you unmute yourself and then I'll put the phone off?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I hear you. Can you hear it, Laura?
I can hear both of you.
Great.
Okay. I put the phone off. Talking about the issue of revetments, and it's a big issue for the Conservation Commission because it's been very frustrating to get something done with it. And I had, good morning, John.
Hi there.
I had not proposed discussing it in our previous draft because I couldn't see any solution to it. But I think probably based on John's comments, I will add something about it in the next red version, which says it's a problem because what happens with a revetment is that as sea level rises, the harbor seaward of the revetment tends to look more and more like a sea lake rather than a salt marsh and beach.
Do you want to just add it or do you want me to put it in now?
I'm just saying I'll do it and I'll send it around in another red version. We're gonna have to have one more meeting like this because I'm trying to meet with the Marina Advisory Committee and we haven't got something set up there yet. Then Laura made a number of good comments, and
I guess what I was saying, do you want me to clean up the old version with whatever we agree today and then you'll be working off the latest?
yes.
Okay.
but you don't know, I have to sort of think through the language.
Right,
about
no, I
this.
get that.
Right. You mentioned, Laura, climate, on chapter 1, climate change, and 2 of the topical bullets are warmer water and more acidic water. Those are actually discussed in the shellfishing section.
Right, so I was just saying, should we say in the climate change chapter, refer to shellfishing, basically? Because we mention them there, and we have
Okay.
a subset for everything else that appears topical, but that one.
All right. I will, I'll look at how I'll add I'll make sure that the reader knows that these subjects come up again in the shellfish chapter.
Okay, yeah.
The other thing, Laura, was very interesting. Oh yeah, your suggestion about new recommendations, and it had to do with the Energy Committee. And that was at the end of the introductory chapter. So it's up at the top of end of the introduction chapter, just before you get to climate change. There you are, blue,
Yeah.
in the blue. You went right by it.
So that was in one of our drafts, and I couldn't figure out if we'd gone back to part of one or which one of these were the second bullet.
Let me explain the story,
Okay,
because I think you did us a favor. There has been a committee called the Energy Committee, which has existed for some time, and for reference, I've said it several times, they have done some great work. And what they have been concerned with mostly is reducing the carbon footprint of the town of Wellfleet. And if you've been up at the transfer station, you see this big array of solar panels.
Yep.
That's their work. But our concern is in the chapter 1 on climate change is how do we respond to climate change, not how do we stop it. So initially I hadn't thought it appropriate to discuss the Energy Committee, but then I looked and they have changed their title to Energy Committee and Climate Change. So I looked through what they had to say, and they are concerned with some of the adaptation work.
mhm.
So I thought that we should include a reference to them somewhere. I had a note to myself, and now I can't find the note as to how I was going to do that. But I will do that in the same way, Laura and John, and call your attention to it as a red draft, because I think it's appropriate now. That we
So at the
recognize
moment
their
though,
work.
is the second bullet valid, or that kind of exists through the Energy Committee, doesn't it?
The second, what do you mean by the second bullet?
The create a climate change committee of staff and citizens?
No, that's something different.
It is something, so all three should be there.
Yeah. My concern with the Climate Change Committee, well, if you look through the introduction, and there are a lot of different projects going on, and they all in some way connect to each other. And I was just concerned, and this is something entirely for the Board of Selectmen to consider, that there needs to be some broad oversight.
Mm-hmm.
And that broad oversight is being given by this committee that between the 4 towns, Eastham, Wellfleet, Truro, and Provincetown, which is referred to in the introduction. So I just thought that the I think there has to be something in between these various initiatives and the Board of Selectmen. That's the way the Herring River project is being run. The Board of Selectmen are formally in touch with it, but there's this Herring River Oversight Committee, which actually looks at it on a month-by-month basis and then reports to the Select Board. So that's a long way around, Laura, of saying I think we should recognize the Energy Committee. The other note I have on that is the subject of blue carbon, and I could shoot myself figuratively that I didn't
We can,
discuss that. And I think that may be the link I had in mind for the Energy Committee. Do you both know what blue carbon is?
I read the site and I actually sent back some stuff I thought was really good off of their website.
Right.
I had no idea what it was prior to you sending it.
Okay.
Yes, I do.
All right. For reference, blue carbon refers to the ability of healthy green plants to take CO2 out of the atmosphere. They use it for growth. When the green plants die, the CO2 is locked into the soil. And that happens particularly with salt marshes. And I was also pretty annoyed with myself that we forgot to discuss that as one of the benefits of salt marsh restoration. It's a big part of the planning for the Herring River. I should have known that.
Right.
So what I will do is I'll add something about blue carbon, and that's a direct part of what the Energy Committee is doing, because that's related to the town's ability to have a lower carbon footprint. So that's a long way around of saying how I will try to include this. It'll be in the climate change chapter. It will be a brief discussion and a reference to the work of the Energy Committee.
Okay.
And again, people like John Pointnoy is a big advocate for this. So
So then
I'm surprised he didn't raise a red flag with me. But we will correct it ahead of time.
So do you think the Energy Committee recommendation then is better in climate change?
Yeah, that's what I would do. And I will start it off with a discussion of blue carbon, why it's important, why we support it, and then.
Can I make a comment here?
Yeah.
I'm looking at this version, this draft we're working on right now.
Yeah.
And somebody in the town, I don't know if it's Jennifer, whoever's doing this, we're doing a lot of formatting stuff. Is that what's going on here? Because this does not look like the version I'm used to working with.
It wasn't to me either, John. That's why I went through and cleaned it up.
Yeah, you know what it is? All the chapters are like not where you're supposed to. Maybe it's because we're adding stuff now. Maybe that's what it is.
Well, I had put that blue thing in there so we could pick, they fall back into place.
Oh, okay.
Once it's corrected.
Again, this is not the version I was looking at
Why
working
the
in.
hell would that not
Okay.
be?
All right.
Well, John, it's probably my fault because I get pretty confused about which version is which.
Well, does this have the watermarks on every page? The town watermark?
It has the old logo.
I'm talking about every page of the document.
I can't see one.
Yeah, see the top of every page there?
Oh, yeah, it does. The version here I'm at the top of page 6. It's got the town watermark.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
So again, that's a version that that wasn't the working version we were using the last time I checked.
I know, but it's what all the edits were made into. So that's why I went and formatted it.
All right.
So I've taken out all your red, John, in the intro. So because we've all looked at it and thought it was fine. And I'm
So
now
you're taking it out by bluing. by
making it
blacking
black.
Yeah.
Sorry, turning it to black font.
Okay.
And now,
I think we have looked at this basically, Laura, and we've all agreed that I mean, I had no objection to any of the changes I made.
okay, so I'll take them all out in
So just
black font. And I moved
Just black
the recommendation about the Energy Committee into
I have to put that in.
Well, I've moved it into chapter 1 at the end, so you can just,
Okay, fine. Well, I'll recognize it there and deal with it.
yeah,
And the other thing I'll have to do is revetments,
right. You've got,
which will be in the climate change chapter.
okay.
Can I also just ask Laura, at somewhere in this document twice was a reference to the 1975 report when we're talking about the Curley report?
It's 72.
Yeah, that needs to be changed to
Oh, it
1970.
is, okay.
Yeah.
And I know in the Curley chapter, I changed it once, but it's somewhere in the beginning, I think. I'm not sure where the second time, I honestly couldn't find it.
Yeah, I got it.
And so it was twice in the document. I don't know where the second one was. It might have been in the introduction.
Yeah,
Speaking of the Curley report, John, just for my information, is it?
yep, we do say 72 here.
Okay,
Is there a schedule for the next Shellfish Advisory Board meeting?
yes, it's, I sent that around to you. It's the 3rd at 6:30.
Okay, February the 3rd at 6:30.
That's why I swear to God, I thought this meeting was after that one.
Well, I'll explain in a minute why I wanted to have the meeting today particularly. Are there any other changes that either of you would like, apart from proofreading and stuff like that, that the two of you would like to see or had noted?
I was pretty happy with this version that we came up with about a month ago, so I'm happy with it.
Well, I was reacting to changes from John Portnoy and Barbara Brennesel. I don't know if you were online when I mentioned that they had sent a bunch of changes.
No.
And that's why I was reacting to that. I mean, they were good suggestions, thoughtful suggestions. So. John, the reason I wanted to hold this meeting now is I wanted us to send something further to the select board. And this goes back in 2016, and I hope I sent this around. The town meeting approved an article which allowed which the town approved $25,000 for NRAB to work on investigating practical methods to reduce dredging. And that was the money. Eventually we figured out that the thing to do was to look at the black mayonnaise, which we turned into black custard and characterized and found out that it's not harmful. I was wanting to propose to the Board of Selectmen that we sponsor a second motion at the town meeting this spring, also for $25,000, which would lead us to begin the process of engineering and permitting what we talked about under dredging. Lord, did I
It looks
did I
good. You
send a
sent
copy
it.
of that out?
You emailed it this morning, I think.
Could you pop that up on the screen? Because we have to,
Which email was it on? I'm not sure.
I don't know if I sent it out this morning or yesterday. There it is. Can you see that, John? I don't think there's any viruses.
So has this already been included in the town meeting, or are you proposing it?
Well, this is from 2016, but what I'm proposing is to change the language slightly. And
I think it was a PDF, wasn't it?
oh,
Oh, wait, maybe I didn't hit enable editing, sorry. Yeah, there we go.
let's see.
We don't know what article number it'll be, right?
We removed Article XX or something like that. We don't even know if the Board of Selectmen will let it go through. After practical, Laura, and under the article,
Yeah,
I wanted to just put in the word engineering. Because I think that has to be the thrust, and remove the thing about finance committee if you can. They'll probably speak up and they probably won't be happy, but that's the way it goes. And then I was, for the summary,
reduce sediment.
no, this is no. Well, let me read out what I had written down.
Okay,
Instead of determine, I said to develop an engineering and permit plan to replace Marina North Channel dredging with a natural distribution of dredge spoils, quote, black custard, unquote, onto Duck Creek marshes.
can you say it one more time? I only got the beginning of it.
All right. Well, this comes, let's see, first, so it's after the word to. Yeah, you got that
Yeah.
out.
I'm just gonna type it out and then I'll drop it in.
All right. To develop an engineering and permit plan
Yeah,
to replace Marina North Channel
uh-huh,
dredging with a natural distribution of dredge spoils, parenthesis, quote, black custard, quote, close parentheses, onto Duck Creek marshes.
I don't know where you want that.
What I propose to do with this, once we've agreed on it, if we agree, is to send it off today to the select board.
So
With an
up here,
offer
do we say request for something up in the top or?
Yeah. Yes. And
Request for consideration or?
yeah, just NRAB request, NRAB ATM request. No, it already says ATM, so undo that. There we are. So we ought to consider the language today. As I say, I'm not sure if the Board of Selectmen will approve it. There's lots of other things happen at town meeting. One of the nice things about this particular way of trying to raise money is that the money isn't actually spent until NRAB signs contracts. So this is sort of a placeholder for the money.
Mhm.
The second thing is I hope the Marina Advisory Committee will join us in this, but that hasn't been decided yet. I haven't talked with them. And the third thing is it will create an obligation for us as a committee to engage in some public relations, because I can believe that one of the reactions we get if this does appear in the town warrant is that all the people that live along Duck Creek are going to say, oh my God, you're sending black mayonnaise our way. And we would have a selling job to do through newspapers, and I'm not quite sure what sort of venues we would use. But I know from the work I did on Mayo Creek that as soon as you start playing around with stuff like this, the people who live along the affected waterway are going to be concerned. I mean, they're going to wonder what exactly is going on.
Send them to Blue Carbon.
I think that the work that Agnes Mindermeyer did shows that it's not harmful material.
Should we just say Wellfleet marshes?
No, I think it has to be Duck Creek, because Duck Creek is where the current carries it. If we go to any other marsh, then it's a much more complicated process, because then
Okay.
you've got to pick the black mayonnaise up, move it, and put it down somewhere. And that looks a little bit like thin layer deposition, and I'm still not sure about the technology for thin layer deposition.
Okay.
Interesting, I talked early this week with the harbor master, Will Sullivan, who had some questions for him, but we talked about this. He was interested, and he was aware of the thin layer deposition work that had been done in Narragansett, which we refer to in our report as Rhode Island. I think when I do my next revision, I'll probably change the Rhode Island to Narragansett. And I said, look, what we're going to do is thin layer deposition using a natural process. And I think that's the easiest way to sell the project. So that's why it says Duck Creek marshes, not
Okay.
general marshes.
I'm with you.
How is that going to work, John?
Well, how are we going to get it there?
How is the actual hydrodynamics of that going to work? Is it gonna be
Well,
pumped? Is it gonna be?
That's why I talk about engineering, because all of the other questions that come up in discussing this are things that I know something about. You know, I can understand say the modeling of the transport of the black mayonnaise upstream. I know that there's a lot of current there, partly from the modeling and partly because I've tried to kayak there. And if you try to kayak against the flow on Duck Creek, it's a tough kayak. So there's plenty of velocity to carry it. The one thing I don't know about, John, is how we get the material from where it deposits in the North Channel over to the Duck Creek flow.
Right. So
That's what the engineering's about. That's where at least that's why we talk about practical engineering methods. That's the one. That's the of all the things that we need to answer. That's the.
Is there a way to stop it from coming in and just get in that flow initially?
There was a study done in 1995 which basically asked that question, and the answer was can't be done.
that was Graham Geist, is that right?
That was a Graham Geist study.
Yeah, all
Okay.
right. So what you're proposing is this would be a naturally occurring way to do this as opposed to mechanically, is that right?
Well, it would be natural once we got the material from where it's deposited in the North Channel, where all those boats are moored,
Right.
over to Duck Creek. Then what happens from Duck Creek all the way up to Route 6 is natural.
So, okay. So where is the elimination of the dredging? I thought that's what the dredging accomplished.
Well, the dredging, that's a good point about my language. What dredging up to this point is you,
It reduces the scope, maybe.
what happens now is that the dredge spoils from the North Channel are taken out to the middle of Cape Cod Bay, which is very expensive.
Oh, okay.
To reduce.
It would be nice to be able to include that in there. I'm trying to envision what people are going to be thinking about looking at that, because what you're talking about is still dredging to me.
Yeah. Would you like to reduce the scope of future full harbor dredging?
Did you
To
just add
avoid,
scope
to
in there?
avoid the
I
trans.
did,
Okay, well, that's
because
accurate.
it's not reduced, the need is still there, but it doesn't mean it's as big a project.
Okay. All right.
And
So
I'd
you
use the
could,
word,
you could
under the
explain that
summary,
to
I
everybody at
deliberately
the town
use the
meeting.
word natural distribution. I mean, that we're going to take advantage of Duck Creek, which is that we're getting into a little bit of a question of what do we put into an ATM article and how do we handle the education.
Well,
So
so
you
what
shouldn't
I'm,
just say, go ahead, John.
yeah, I'm just thinking, whatever you figure out, you're gonna need to be able to explain it to the people at town meeting.
Ahead of time, preferably.
Well, okay, then that would be in writing.
Well, I don't know how I do that. I think I would do it. My first reaction was to do a couple of newspaper interviews. I'm sure we'd get good support from the Independent, and I would also go to the Cape Cod Times and probably try to do that sooner rather than later because the Cape Cod Times raised a number of answerable concerns about the Herring River project because things weren't properly explained. So I would go to the Cape Cod Times just about the time that the warrant is published. But we have, people are going to be skeptical. We have to deal with that.
All right, how about this? Where it says scope of future full harbor dredging, how about scope and expense of future full harbor dredging? Somewhere in
That's
there,
great.
somewhere in there, it should be pointed out that you're saving the hassle of dragging that stuff all the way out to the middle of Cape Cod Bay.
That's important. That's important, John, because it costs millions of dollars to do the
Yeah, because that's what's
the
gonna help
dredging.
people. If you can save, if it looks like you're saving money, that's gonna help.
Good for you.
In the summary where we say to develop, should we say to evaluate and develop? Because they first got to make sure it'll work.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
All right.
I wonder if you should get rid of the Duck Creek marshes. I mean, suppose they say that's not going to work, but this would. Something else would. Or do you think there's no way something else might be the,
Well, I guess the reason, Laura, is when we first go to a engineering company, that's what we're going to say to them. And if they come up with an alternative that's work and meets the goals of the articles, no one's going to complain.
okay, I'm just wondering, or do we say or alternatives anywhere or just go with this?
I think this is enough. If the select board is going to buy it at all, they're going to want me to come and we'll talk about it.
Okay,
I think you're gonna need to do some outreach to all the property owners on Duck Creek.
Yes. That's why absolutely. I don't know how you hold meetings. I suppose we could do a Zoom meeting with everybody, because Nancy Vale could give us, I think, the contact information. I don't know if she has
Well,
emails though.
you would just have to publish, the Duck
Post
Creek.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
post it, and Duck
Yeah,
Creek,
right.
you should include Duck Creek in there, and you'll get everybody.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, I know
so
some of the
happy with
people, I
this?
know a few of the people who live along Duck Creek, so I could use them to stir up things. Town treasurer lives along Duck Creek. Jane Sharp lives along Duck Creek.
So we're,
I know 3 or 4 people who could stir the pot. But for the moment, all I propose to do is to send this off to the Board of Selectmen and ask to discuss it. They may say, we can't afford it this year, but at least it lets them know that we're thinking about how to implement things. So if we agree, that's what I shall do, but I need a motion and a vote.
we move forward with this.
I'll second.
Okay. Vote, Laura,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
John, yes.
Okay, I will send it to you.
As revised.
Yep, I'll send it to you.
Thank you very much. I can't remember. Is anyone else is there anything on the agenda we haven't done? I can't think of anything. I have an agenda.
The thing that was Narragansett, John, that you wanted to say, Rhode Island, I mean Narragansett.
Yeah, it's when we're talking about thin layer deposition.
Okay.
I just wanted to instead of saying Rhode Island, I wanted to say Narragansett
Oh, shoot.
Bay. That would be up under dredging. Keep going further forward in the dredging chapter, Laura.
Oh, it came to the back first. All right, I'll find it and I'll put in Narragansett and then you
Yeah,
can.
if you send me this, don't worry, I'll make the change.
That's fine.
It just that being a little precise on the
Yeah,
site is useful. Phew.
yep, I'll just eyeball through again for any.
Okay, well, we'll all have a look at it. I'm sorry I used the wrong version, so we have to clean it up again.
I think we're about there.
I can't see, are the page numbers there? Oh, yeah, there they are.
One.
You know, keep going up in the chapter. It would happen early in the chapter.
Yeah.
Before we got into the details. All right, go down and work on down here. If it's still in there, it was. No, it's further forward in the chapter, Laura. If it's going to be there. Let me just look through that chapter and get it in the right
Yeah.
way.
I'll let you do it.
Yeah, that's
Just
better than
tidying up the reds and.
yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Anything else we need to? Climate change, so that's that one. So that needs to go back into the summary of recommendations.
Okay.
All right, I'll finish tidying this up.
Okay. John, by the way, I was, in case any of your friends ask about this vaccination,
Yeah.
the state rollout was a mess, but Linda and I did get an appointment on Sunday at Gillette Stadium.
Really?
That's the only place we could find that had vaccine and was open to. So we made appointments and we're going to drive up. Hopefully they'll be operating.
That's funny because I was looking and I spoke to somebody out at Cape Health yesterday and they told me the whole state was out of vaccine.
Well, somehow Gillette Stadium got some.
All right. Well, I'm supposedly not even on the list until the next set, February 1st.
Well, Linda and I are both above 75. That's how we
Yeah,
got.
well,
That's how we got on the list.
that was right. So Gillette Stadium, huh? Well,
But you go to other places, CVS and Stop and Shop and Walgreens are supposed to be suppliers, and there's they don't have vaccine, and B, their forms to fill out are pretty complicated. So
Huh.
Gillette
Well, I could-
Stadium was simple, and they had the stuff.
Well, thanks. I meant to ask you about that because I've been having a hard time trying to, I want the vaccine, and my understanding is that I'm not eligible until February 1st at least, and we'll see how it goes. But I hear that out here in Orleans, it's Stop and Shop. That's the only place you can go to get it.
Well, the other thing I've heard, John, that may make, I mean, we wanted to get it done soon so we could get away to Arizona by the end of February. I've heard that Hillary and some of her Outer Cape health agents are going to try to set something up for the Outer Cape, but I haven't heard any confirmation of that. That's just a
Well,
secondhand story.
this is a supply issue right now, as far as I've
Yeah, I
heard.
think you're right.
I was talking to, I have a physical therapist at Spalding, and Spalding had ordered 500 doses of it, and they couldn't get them, and then they were told that they're not going to get them. I'm hoping with the new administration that we're going to have a little bit more luck getting vaccine.
Anyhow, Laura, thank you for your help. John, thank
You
you for your
bet.
help. And
Thank you. I'm sorry. I apologize for not being there on time.
that's okay. We tracked you down. You can't get away from us.
All right.
So have a good week.
Alrighty, thanks.
Bye.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Bye-bye.
bye now.